So today we're joined by Mitesh Jagatia, who's founder of Eco Ventures Counsel, a UK-based initiative that connects early-stage climate technology startups with pro bono legal support from leading law firms. Climate innovation is often framed around engineering breakthroughs and venture capital, but many founders discover that legal complexity can become one of the biggest hurdles when moving from prototype to commercial scale. Issues like intellectual property or corporate structure, contracts, regulatory issues, they can all shape whether a promising climate technology actually reaches the market. And Eco Ventures Counsel aims to address that gap by giving early stage climate ventures access to legal expertise at a point when they typically can't afford it. And the initiative works with cohorts of startups across the entire climate tech ecosystem. So Mitesh, welcome to the Climate Solutions News podcast.
Thank you.
Just to kick things off, give us a little bit of background about you. What did you do? How did you get to the position that you're at today, and what made you want to launch Eco Ventures?
Thank you, Dominic. So I was a lawyer for almost 2 decades, mostly working in-house at big corporates. Also with a 6-month stint at a startup, which is probably worth a podcast all of its own, but I won't dwell on that right now. But when I was
Sounds
working,
intriguing.
Yes, yeah, that would be episode 2. So when I was working at a large corporate, I co-created a similar program to EVC called the Green Tech Legal Collaborative, which is still running. So my day job was as a media lawyer, and my night job was co-creating and then co-running this GTLC program, which connects leading law firms with green tech ventures tied to Imperial College London and Undaunted. The model works slightly differently. It's still running and doing amazing things, but I soon realized that I whisper it quietly. I guess, can you whisper on a podcast? I don't know. But I preferred the night job to the day job and realized I was having far more positive impact with the pro bono program. And it just became an idea of mine that I might one day have the opportunity to try and build a similar program and scale it up and make it bigger, not just tied to those amazing ecosystems. So fast forward a few years, and I left my employer, left the GTLC program, and as it were, I kind of left the band to go solo. So I took a year contracting at Sky as a lawyer to sort of wind down my legal career, and in my evenings and weekends built up BBC in the background, and it involved a lot of cold calling, a lot of cold emailing, and gradually built up contacts. And then fast forward a few months later, started 2025, just over a year ago, we started receiving applications for cohort 1, which then launched in May, and it sort of has just built from there. Yes, I was a lawyer for many years. I had run my race and found my, sort of quite accidentally found my passion to my pro bono role, and then realized there was an opportunity to build that program and build a similar program and scale it, which I'm now trying to do.
Very good, very good. And just go into a little bit of detail about how the model actually works. You know, how do you bring the startups on, and talk a little bit about the law firms and what the startups can get through the program?
Sure. So with the startups, and that I should say that also includes Spinouts, and also more recently social enterprises, and hopefully in due course charities too. Any organization that's planet positive is eligible, and if it's a for-profit company, it has to be pre-Series A. But as I said, with my cold calling, cold emailing, universities and incubators, accelerators, venture builders, investors, I was saying, hey, I've got this cool idea. Here's my old program that's doing good things. I had won a pro bono award, so the model works, but now I'm doing it again and giving law firms ever more involvement, which I can get to. And then all these places had to do was send out emails to their ecosystem saying, hey, there's this new program, it's free. You could get, a lot of free legal support for a year from a top law firm. What's not to like? And you just have to apply. Gradually, I've built up connections with these organizations. And also I've gone to a ton of climate tech events across the UK. So I've met a lot of founders myself. And as each cohort has come on board, it's just been easier to recruit ever more ventures to apply, especially through word of mouth. So it's been a rather painstaking but fun building up my connections in the climate tech community in the UK. So that's on the sort of startup, spin out, social enterprise side. Then with the law firms, because I'd been in pro bono before through the G2C program, and also I was involved with a group called the In-House Pro Bono Group. I'd worked a lot with law firms in pro bono, so they kind of knew who I was. So I said, similar thing, I've helped build this other program. I'm now doing this similar one on my own. Who wants to join me? And the catch is this time you have to pay. So to make my program appealing enough for them to join and pay me an annual fee, I committed to match law firms specifically with ventures. So each law firm gets one or more ventures that they get to own that relationship with for that year. And then without having to share necessarily with other law firms. So they really do get to build ties and really understand the business and invest, a lot of effort and resources into it.
And for those that don't know the legal sector, I mean, pro bono is a very accepted and common part of practice within law firms, isn't it? I mean, just give what's the thinking behind that, and what's the scale of the involvement that they generally have on pro bono projects?
Yeah, that's a good question, Dominic. I think, pro bono's been around for a while, certainly in the past 20 years, and it just grows year on year. I mean, historically, I think it came in as legal aid at least in the UK. It came in more as legal aid for individuals who need help was declining. That government free support for lawyers that declined, and pro bono need rose. So there's a lot of pro bono work out there where law firms help individuals in particular, and that need sadly always grows across the world, including in our country in the UK. But there hasn't been much pro bono support for companies. So my play and pitch to law firms has been, well, you're helping it. I don't put it in these terms, but essentially it's you're helping people. Great. We need that and more of that. Keep doing your fantastic work. But what about the macro? What about the planet? If the planet continues to struggle, the pro bono needs are going to rocket when we have ever more climate migration and wars over resources, happening now, but even worse will come. We can do something to, fix the source of many of these problems. And also for the firms that like this sort of thing, you might be able to get some clients in the future if they successfully scale, and they're grateful to you for the, amazing support you did to them to help them, get to their position of success.
And you've managed to secure some pretty big firms, I think, as well, haven't you?
Yes, indeed. So we have the likes of Linklaters, Wild Gottschall, Stephenson Harwood. The list goes on, but we have 12 law firms at present and 2 amazing IP firms, Appleyard Lees and Keltie. So yes, we do have a strong roster of law firms, and of course, I'm looking to grow that number, in particular of law firms all the time. So hopefully we'll have 1 or 2 more firms join us for cohort 4 that will launch in the summer.
A lot of those are, if not household names, very well known, not least for their scale and for being top end and expensive. So I think, climate tech companies at startup stage probably aren't generally able to access the resources of those type of firms. So it's definitely a unique offer to the cohort that comes through. Let's just turn to the startup. So you had 2 cohorts in 2025 and you've just launched a new one in March 2026. Give us a flavour of some of those companies, and what are they doing? What kind of sectors are they coming from? And also what type of legal support are they getting through Eco Ventures Counsel?
Sure. So in cohort 1, we had 21 ventures join, and they include the likes of Backtree, who are creating essentially a battery that generates electricity automatically through the soil, through the bacteria in the soil, hence the name Backtree. So that's a super exciting clean energy company. We have Hot Green Solutions, who are creating an industrial heat pump. We have Marinatex, who are creating sort of fish waste and seaweed-based plastic alternative packaging for food and other things. I won't bore you with the full list, but that's just a flavour of what we have in Cohort 1 and in Cohort 2. We have Windfall Energy, a particularly exciting company. They are creating a battery for renters and people living in flats, especially for those people who don't have access to solar technology for their roofs because they don't have access to a roof, for example. They are developing a new battery and have just launched their first model. And now in Cohort 3, which launched in March, as you say, we have some fantastic companies. Oralytica, they're A in the alphabet, so they sprung to mind first. They are developing a sort of bio-based sensor that's going to predict and tell you the freshness of food. So rather than relying on the rather crude best before used by someone metrics that are always hyper-conservative for obvious reasons, having a more scientific sensor of food is going to reduce waste, but all stages of the production and consumption process. So they're one of the exciting 18 ventures we have in Cohort 3.
I mean, it's very diverse in terms of the challenges that the startups are working on. Are the legal requirements that they have equally as diverse? Give us a flavour of some of the things that they're asking for support on from the law firms.
Yeah, good question. So I'd start by saying that in general, the support we provide on the legal front is full service. So we can never guarantee that every single piece of advice will be helped with. And the law firms certainly won't give any guarantees. But what we do is we try our utmost to keep all of the legal needs within the program and supported by the primary firm, or if they can't help because they're, say, too busy, we get another firm in the program to help. So the sorts of issues we cover are, biggest one I think is fundraising. These often fiendishly complicated investment documents are not easy to understand, and they're incredibly important, and they have to be done correctly. So our law firms often spend a lot of time with their corporate teams in the deal as if it were any big, normal big deal with 1, 2, 3, 4 extra zeros at the end usually, but they apply the same rigor to help our startups and spinouts with their own fundraising. Commercial contracts of all stripes. So if you're a new climate tech venture, you could be dealing with some manufacturing, people manufacturing your prototype or MVP. Equally, you could be dealing with a big commercial partner you're looking to do a pilot with. And of course, on both sides, T's and C's would be quite different. So all sorts of commercial contracts is sort of bread and butter for our law firms. Employment, obviously. So if you're hiring staff, you've got people from different countries and immigration issues. You need policies drafted. We'll help with that. EIS schemes. So if you're looking at giving options to your staff, again, our employment or tax teams that the firms can help with those. And then another big area is IP. So that is covered slightly differently, usually. So with our IP firms, their pro bono support is more limited. They don't have the resources to give a year of free support, sadly, although I do keep working on that. They will typically give a free IP audit for the ventures and give them a sense of where they are, or if they've already got IP support, a second pair of eyes. And then there'll typically be some discounted rates on offer during the lifetime of the program for the ventures to incentivize them to work with our IP firms. But that is not mandatory. That's just an offer that our ventures can take up if they wish.
I mean, it sounds very extensive. Do you have any figures for the kind of average amount of money that would cost if the firms were hiring the law firms themselves?
That is a good question. So first, I would say the amount of legal needs vary from company to company, as you would expect. But just give a flavour of some of the metrics for 2025. So this was May or June to the end of the year. So this is not even the full year of the cohort 1. at the lower end, ventures were getting, tens of thousands of pounds of advice. But at the higher end, if they were fundraising, they were getting hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of free legal support. If they were getting fundraising on top, just because of the amount of work involved there. And again, that's not even covering the full year. Bearing in mind that law firms charge top dollar, still, even taking that into account, it's still a huge amount of work that we can give. One venture in cohort 3's told me that their brother works at, I think it's Blackstone, and they were talking about which law firm's helping the venture, and his brother said, "I work at this huge company and we use the same law firm." So just give you a sense of the quality and price that would normally be charged by these law firms.
As an analogy that lots of climate tech founders would probably get, I think it's a little bit like Amazon or Google Cloud offering free credits to some extent to get the companies on the platform to start with, and then hope to keep them through the life cycle, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Although I would say that this is specialist advice that is less commoditizable. I'd say I'm biased, but I would say it's an even better offer because of the sensitivity of the need and the specialist.
Very good. Let's talk a little bit about AI, since I raised those two companies. Now, it must be quite tempting for startups in general to turn to Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT for their legal advice, and you get very credible sounding answers, obviously within a very low monthly subscription. But I've been seeing quite a lot of posts on LinkedIn recently from frustrated lawyers or HR professionals saying, please don't rely on AI because it can land you in real trouble. Now, that may be self-preservation, of course, but what's your thinking on the capabilities of the AI platforms at the moment, and what's your guidance to startup founders who are tempted down that route?
Yeah, that's a good question. And obviously the AI capabilities seem to be improving exponentially all the time. So whenever this goes out, my view may not be current. First of all, I think the obvious point is if you have no legal support at hand or you can't afford it, which will be the case for 99% of founders, then I think it's better to use AI than nothing, first of all. Probably and even if it's just to give you an idea of which are the most sensitive points and what you should be thinking about, even if they don't use it for negotiation or what have you, just to get a sense of what are the red flags that I should be thinking about in a commercial contract. We know AI can do that stuff quite competently. So I'm definitely not one saying don't use AI. I definitely do consider using AI even if you don't have any other legal support. But yes, of course, the optimal position is to have a law firm help, and law firms are using legal tech and AI in legal tech a lot, and it's changed, and it's growing exponentially with the likes of Harvey and Legora and other companies who are huge companies in their own right now. Law firms themselves are being disrupted, and I think that's one reason for their consolidation right now at the top end, because they need scale to invest in AI so they can protect themselves from being disrupted themselves. So yes, AI I think overall is a positive, and folks should be looking at the tools that are out there. But the optimal solution is to be using a law firm, because even with the AI, output that you get, you don't necessarily understand what it's saying, and there are nuances, and it's kind of similar to using this stuff to check your medical conditions, right? You might think, well, ChatGPT or Claude has spotted, these 3 or 5 things, and I've therefore got this certain condition, but you may well not. So there is an analogy to be drawn that you need to be careful how you use it, but it's still better to use it than not, I would say.
Okay, but don't rely on it overly and get it checked if it's particularly sensitive.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't sort of blindingly rely on it.
Yeah. Um, the law firms that you have are often international, and you're only operational in the UK at the moment, but are you looking at expanding internationally? And also, does the support cover international jurisdictions as well for the climate tech startups?
Another good question. So short answer, yes, we are currently in the UK, but yes, we are looking to expand internationally later this year. So I will be, you can have exclusive here. I will be accepting applications in September for what I'll probably call EVC Europe Cohort 1 that will hopefully then launch in January. And we'll be
And
looking at supporting.
is that focused on particular European countries or anyone in EU?
Yeah, good question. I was going to get to that. So probably focusing on the major jurisdictions, because what I need to do is to make sure that my law firms can support locally. So my firms are all international and they have offices all over the major European capitals and financial centres. So I think we should be supporting ventures in countries like Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, and Spain. Off the top of my head, maybe others too, but certainly those I would think would be in the
Scandinavia?
mix. I know there's a big climate tech scene there, and Sweden, of course, is amazing for tech. I've not yet spoken to firms with capabilities in that region, but that's also on the radar. That's also on my radar.
Great, very good. Well, good to have a scoop.
Yes.
Um, the and let's look at universities. You mentioned universities and Spinouts earlier on, and the UK's obviously got a thriving spin-out track record, and very good universities who are actively involved in spinning out startups. Are there any particular legal challenges that come with spin-outs? And I'm thinking about the sort of investment structures that go with it in particular.
Yeah, well, universities tend to have different approaches to commercializing. So some, I guess, the ones we know adept at this and do it a lot, Oxford, Imperial, and so on, who do this a lot. I think it could be a smooth experience for students coming out of universities like that, where they spin out a lot, versus universities that don't do it as much or are newer to that game. So that's one thing I have seen, that differences of experiences of spinning out depending on the university in the UK. And yes, one issue can be the investment that the universities put in and the stakes that they require, and some require much more than others. So yeah, that is an issue that we see, and yeah, it is an issue that we do try to assist with. If the ventures are ventures at that stage of approaching spinning out, we don't need them to have necessarily spun out already.
Okay, great. So just to finish off, you've got a live cohort at the moment. When's the next cohort coming, and how do startups apply to be part of it?
Yes, so cohort 3 launched, as you said, in March last month, and we will hopefully early next week be accepting applications for cohort 4. So people can apply via the website ecoventurescounsel.com. When the application form is available, that page will have the application form there, and we'll have applications accepted probably till very early May, so for 2.5 weeks. And then I'll be interviewing in May, and then be recommending to my law firms at the end of May, early June, for the law firms to then take that month to decide who they want to support. And then, all things going well, we should be then launching cohort 4 in July.
And do you have any tips for success for people applying? Are there any particular things that you're looking for, and what's the rate of success? How many people apply and how many people get through?
So we have between 60 and 90-ish applicants per cohort at the moment in the first 3. And yes, then we've had 21, then 7, but now 18, back up to 18 bench in this cohort. So it's certainly not impossible. There's certainly a good chance of getting in. And we have seen repeat applicants get in on their second attempt, for example, of applying, because it is to some degree a numbers game. I would love to support almost all of the ventures that apply. It's just getting enough law firms involved to give the support. So what I want to see, I certainly want to see careful thought in the application form. It is very long. I am, guess now, an ex-lawyer. My application form is the DD exercise for me and also for my law firms. So it's necessarily a lot of large amounts of information that they provide in the application form. So we want careful thought about that. In particular, careful thought about the legal needs. That's a big chunk of the application form as well towards the end. They don't need to be lawyers or necessarily understand every legal need they might have, but we do try and put them in areas, where they need to think about legal needs, and you can tell who's given that more thought versus who's not, just purely by the length of how much they say and what they've thought about. So that's always a very big positive, and my law firms love to see that too. And yes, the tenacity of applying again if needs be, 1, 2, 3 times. That is a positive rather than a negative. It all just shows they've gone through the process again. It's a lot of work. They really do understand the need of legal support and also the value that our program can provide. I do love to see repeat applicants. And yeah, otherwise, I love to be wowed by these incredible ideas. It always gives me hope seeing applications and then talking to the founders in the interviews in particular, that there is hope that we might yet save this planet of ours, because there is an incredible amount of climate innovation. And I'm only looking at the UK so far. I'm sure, that hope will just grow as we expand internationally, first with Europe and then further afield in due course.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mitesh Jagatia, founder of Eco Ventures Counsel. Fascinating conversation. And I think, the value is evident for startups who do want to apply. So well done on splitting out of the band and launching your solo career, as you put it earlier. I hope it goes extremely well in future and as it expand across other territories as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dominic.